Good afternoon and welcome to Nutmeg Sports here on the HN Network. I'm Kevin Coleman, filling in for Frank Granito. We have a great show for you today. We'll examine the girls' soccer playoff matchup as well as we'll talk about the game from last night, Ward and Staples. But I'd like to welcome in now Dave Stewart. Dave, Kevin, how are you doing? I haven't seen you since Friday. How are you? How was your weekend?
Been a long time. It was a good weekend. I have to brag because I went 8-0 in my picks.
We're going to get to that. Don't worry.
I wanted to bring that up right away.
Don't worry. But we have a great show for you today. Of course, we're going to talk about, tomorrow starts boys quarterfinal soccer, and then Friday we'll start the girls soccer. And Dave, we're going to start things off. Last night was the girls FCIAC girls FCIAC game of the week between Fairfield Ward and the Staples Wreckers right here on the HA Network. It was a great game. It was almost a game of day and night between the two halves. The game ended in a 1-1 tie. And coming out into the game, we saw Staples put on a lot of pressure in the first half. They went into the locker room with a 1-0 lead. Then coming in the second half, after a few tactical changes, Fairfield Ward came out and tied the game up, and that's how it ended. Credit Alexa Montani. The coaching staff moved her up forward after playing center back in the first half, and she really made the difference for the Mustangs. But right now, we're going to take a look at the highlights from last night's game. On the HN Network, it's Fairfield Ward and Staples here at Tetro Davis Field at Fairfield Ward High School. Wreckers trying to play it through ball. Beautiful play. Big opportunity for the Wreckers, and it's in. It's a goal for the Wreckers early on, 1-0. It's Caitlin Laligio, number 8. Coming all the way down to the 18. A shot on goal, but a great save. Oh, the ball is loose. And the Mustangs will clear this one away. Great save by Christensen. And they get it. Big opportunity for the Mustangs. Still loose. Open play. Walsh. She scores it. This game is tied.
Oh, Tangney set that baby up. Beautiful.
Final 5 seconds to go. This game will end in a tie as the Mustangs and the Wreckers. This game is over, but credit the Mustangs as they tie, and they are into the playoffs. And congratulations to the Ward Mustangs. They were playing for a playoff spot last night. They needed at least a tie, Dave, to get into the playoffs.
You know, they were playing with a lot of pressure on them because they didn't know what the situation was going into the evening, and you got to hand it to them. They fall behind Staples, which played a great game in the first half, very aggressive, and for Ward to hold on like that and then come back and tie them, get that 1 point they needed to qualify. Even though by that point they had qualified, it's still a big tie for them going into the playoffs. It
really is, and again, congratulations to them. And this is a Staples Wreckers team that was without one of their best players, Lydia Shaw, who tore her ACL at the beginning of the year.
It's great because they lost her, and you wonder where a team's going to go when they lose really their best player, their top scorer like that. And they really haven't missed a beat. They just kept on going. They're still scoring goals. They're still playing really well. And you got to hand it to them when a team's able to pull together after losing a player of Shaw's quality.
And I'm glad you brought that up because Tim Murphy and I, who was on the call with me last night, talked about this during the broadcast, how a lot of underclassmen stepped up for them this year.
Yes, and that's really the key. You've got to be able to have people moving in. The program itself has been doing so well, and you're just getting that kind of feeder program going where people are coming up, and whenever you lose one player, there's an opportunity for somebody else, and they've really taken the ball and run with it.
And now the FCI quarterfinals will start on Friday night. And Dave, let's take a look at these matchups, starting with number 8 Ward heading to St. Joe's. Of course, we saw the Mustangs last night. They head to number 1 seed St. Joe's Cadets.
Yeah, I look at that, and I look at the next game, the Trumbull Ridgefield game, and you give everybody a chance in soccer. It's just an interesting sport. Things bounce a certain way, and anything can happen. I got to say, in this tournament, though, I would say St. Joe's and Ridgefield, you kind of got to go with the chalk. I hate to do that, but those two teams are so dominant. It's tough to pick against them. So St. Joe's versus Ward. Ward's coming off a good game against Staples. I can't see them overcoming St. Joe's at this point, though.
And actually, last night for a while, the Lady Tigers put some pressure on the Cadets because on the final day, they beat Trinity Catholic 6-0 and actually had sole possession of first place for a little while last night. But then, St. Joe's came out and won 6-1 over Norwalk, so they reclaimed that first place spot.
Yeah, that was a couple hours they were in first place there, and they actually, the one thing about that for St. Joe's is they're playing Norwalk. They can't settle for a tie at that point. If they get the tie, they're not the number 1 seed. They're number 2, and they got the win. They handled Norwalk 6-1. So everything kind of settled down the way it was expected to. And then in the number 6, Darien versus number 3 Staples, who we saw last night as well. That game will be Friday at 3:30. Talk about that game, and does Darien have a realistic chance in this game? I think so. I think Darien's programs, as we've seen over the last year and this season, they've just been so incredible about stepping up in the right moments. It's a game where Darien has a great goalie, and Fiore they have a great defense. They can settle that down. That could end up being like a one-goal game, maybe 1-0, 2-1, something like that. And in those types of games, it's soccer. Anything can happen. I think that's really a very good matchup, as is the 4-5 game.
And we mentioned number 7 Trumbull going against Richfield, and does Trumbull have a chance in this game as well against the Tigers?
Again, I've got to go with the truck. Ridgefield had that little stumble where they lost 2 games in 2 days, one to New Canaan and 1 game to St. Joe's, and they were having trouble scoring at that point. But that's such a good team that they're the defending champs. They've been there before, and I just feel like that they're on a collision course with St. Joe's again.
And then finally, we have number 5 Wilton going against number 4 West Hill. And this is a West Hill team that we saw a few weeks ago play St. Joe's, and they actually played them pretty well for a majority, I'd say 70 minutes of that game, and then St. Joe's scored 2 quick goals to end the game. But this is a West Hill team that could really surprise some people come playoff time.
I think if you've got to pick one team that could knock off St. Joe's or Ridgefield, it's probably West Hill in there. They've scored 53 goals in 16 games this year.
Amazing.
I mean, that's incredible. And in a sport like soccer, where there's not that many points put on the board, you get a goal here, you get a goal there, and all of a sudden that can put a team that can just put a team over the hump and get them past the St. Joe's or a Ridgefield. They've also got Chelsea Doman, who's just one of the top players, if not the top player in the league. Corinne Dente has been scoring too. They were only shut out 3 times. 2 of those times were St. Joe's and Ridgefield, 2-0. So that's something they have to get over. But West Hill has the ability to finish, so I think they're probably the one team that I could see knocking off those top 2.
Well, you heard it from here. You're saying West Hill could be a little Cinderella story come playoff time.
Well, we're showing the Vikings some love lately,
Well, of course, we talked about before the broadcast how we have state cross-country state finals this weekend, correct?
Yes, all the class meets up at Wickham Park. Should be a good weekend, and it's a beautiful course, very hilly, and it's very challenging for these runners. They overcame Waveney Park last week. That's got its own little nuance to it, but Wickham Park is interesting. A lot of the top runners ran at the Wickham Park Invitational earlier this month, so anybody who didn't really have a taste of Wickham before the course there, they've gotten it, so they know the course and they're ready to go. And you gotta look at teams like Ridgefield girls, Staples boys. I mean, the champs of the FCAC. They could be class champs too. They could even be state open champs the week after.
And you mentioned Waveney Park, and we were just there last week for the FCAC cross-country final. What impressed you the most? Was it the Ridgefield girls or was it the Staples boys?
Wow, that's a really tough call because the Staples boys had 5 runners in the top 11. That's incredible. When you think of how many good runners are in the FCAC and how many good teams are in the FCAC, to get nearly half of the top 11 and to score 27 points. We were talking before the show about, there's no record for. I haven't seen a record for the lowest point total or best point total, and 27 points has got to be right up there. It might be the best. You can't get much lower than that. And Staples was just incredible because, you look at Danbury. Danbury's a great team, and it wasn't even close when it came down to it in the team scores.
And you mentioned Danbury. How surprised were you that they didn't finish a little higher, maybe even a little closer to Staples?
Yeah, Danbury just did. I'm not saying they didn't have it that day, but Staples was just so dominant, and that is surprising that they were a little further back. They had some good runs. They had some good people in there. Terrell Cunningham was right up there, and but Staples, hats off to him. Led by Zakir Ahmad, who basically went right to the front in the first mile and just was there the whole time and pretty much gaining on everybody. got to hand it to Staples. I mean, that's big. And Ridgefield, the Ridgefield girls.
And talk about this Ridgefield program. I mean, for so many years, they're so strong. Is it the coaching staff? What is it about this Ridgefield program?
I don't know what they're feeding the girls up there, but it's incredible what they've done. You had 6 runners in the top 14 for Ridgefield, and they actually had the top 3 runners in the JV race too. So I mean, this is just a pipeline of girls coming through. Their top 6 included freshman Tess Pisanelli and sophomores Gabriella Vigiano and Casey McGerald. So you're looking at half of their top 6 is going to be back next year, and they've got people behind them. And obviously with the JV race, those are underclassmen. They'll be back. Ridgefield's just a machine right now.
And you mentioned Sakir Ahmad, Morgan McCormick, who,
yes,
again, another great performance. These are 2 athletes who are in Athlete of the Week this week.
Yes, yeah, and very deserving for Morgan McCormick too. Kind of running behind, handed the Ballsy the last few years, who's over now at Stanford, and she stepped up. She had her opportunity, won by 17 seconds. Interestingly, Greenwich freshman Zoe Harris finishing second, her first race in the FCAC varsity in 14:53, 17 seconds behind McCormick. So some good underclassmen in the FCAC.
Now, don't forget to nominate for your Athlete of the Week. And we're going to take a break here on Nutmeg Sports here on HA Network. When we come back, we're going to talk about girls volleyball here. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back on Nutmeg Sports.
1, 2, 3, Abby! I want to find out how good I am. Yes, sir! If you relax, you get blown out. Let's get it done! Let's get it done!
What can you take advantage of right now?
Again, come on. I can push myself way beyond what you think.
Crush your technique. Bring it back.
Want a new experience in car buying? No aggravation, no confrontation, just answers to all your questions. Scap Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, car buying the way you want it to be. With one of the largest selections of new 2- and 4-door Jeep Wranglers available, we are Connecticut's Wrangler headquarters. Located in Fairfield, Connecticut, we're easy to get to. Just 2.5 miles off the Merritt Parkway, exit 44 via Route 58 South. Save thousands right now during the Jeep Celebration event and Ram Power Days. Ends October 31st.
Connecticut is coming back to hometown banking, to a partner that makes small businesses feel big, where community comes first, where high-tech tools go hand in hand with a human touch, where you get the know-how only neighbors can deliver, where saving time is important too. It's time to expect more. It's time to bank well, bank smart, bank local, bank well.
Have a sports injury or a slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast, without an appointment. Biking, golf, tennis, soccer, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care, open Monday through Saturday, now in 2 locations. The iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk and 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien. Or go to coastalorthoexpress.com, like them on Facebook.
When it comes to local entertainment, we've got it all.
From movies, local artists, etiquette, and more.
Watch HAN Arts and Leisure with me, Steve Coulter, and our Arts and Leisure editor, Sally Sanders, Mondays at 12:30, right here on the HAN Network.
Give your day a jumpstart with the latest news, sports, weather, and more on Coffee Break, live on the HAN Network, weekdays at 11 a.m. Connecticut news doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. Kevin Coleman here, filling in for Frank Granito, along with Dave Stewart. And Dave, we'll let you get your little brag out, 8-0 on the football picks. We'll let you have your time.
It happens so infrequently. I have to brag a little bit. Yeah, it was on the money last week, I guess. But there were some tough ones in there too. We were talking about Ridgefield Staples. When I picked Ridgefield, I had no idea that was going to be a 42-7 game, or anything close to that. I mean, that to me, that was incredible.
I think a lot of people can agree with that. And then the West Hill game is pretty interesting, 12-11. We don't see that score very often in football.
Yeah, 12-11. I'm looking at a safety a couple of missed conversions, a field goal in there. So I mean, you had a weird game, but the Vikings come out on top, and you got to hand it to them. They've played good. They have a tough schedule going forward from here on out. They do get Stanford on Thanksgiving, but which will be an interesting game. But they're playing some of the powerhouses the next few weeks. But so far, West Hills looked pretty good. That when they played New Canaan won that 35-7, I believe, and they did a few things and played great against Greenwich too.
They did, and hey, gotta give credit to your 8-0 record. I mean, it beats the rest of the crew here. So best of luck with your picks way down the road.
The nice one was Trinity over Ludlow, because I was telling people that night, that wanted to go with Ludlow. They're off base on that.
I made that mistake, so congratulations on that pick. But tonight marks this week rather, the end of the week marks the end of the field hockey regular season. We're going to quickly run through the schedule for tonight and tomorrow's games. Coming up tonight, we have Greenwich at West Hill. That game will be at 3:30. Then we have Darien heading to Fairfield Ward. That game will be at 4 o'clock. Finally, wrapping up the Wednesday slate will be Trumbull heading to Norwalk. That game will be tonight at 7 o'clock. Tomorrow, we have Fairfield Ludlow heading to Brian McMahon. That game will be at 6 o'clock, wrapping up the end of the field hockey season. And Dave, let's jump into it. I mean, this is the standings right now for field hockey. I mean,
it's actually pretty straightforward when you consider what some of the other sports have been doing this year. The top 5 are the top 5 that you see there.
Right.
Wilton and Staples are tied. They're done with their FCX schedule. Wilton they tied each other 0-0 during the regular season, and Wilton takes the top seed because they did beat Darien, so they go to quality wins. They beat Darien 3-1 too, which is impressive against a Blue Wave program that's just awesome. Staples tied Darien, so Staples is number 2. Darien will be at number 3, and Norwalk and New Canaan they're fixed at 4 and 5. So that's the one matchup we know is definite for the quarterfinals, is New Canaan at Norwalk. I believe it's at 7 o'clock on Friday. And that could be an interesting game. They combined to score 8 goals when they played earlier this year. Norwalk won at Dunning Field 5-3. So if you like scoring, that could be a big one. But, the goalies might be working on some things this week, getting ready.
I mean, let's talk about how top-heavy the top 5 is. I mean, wow.
Yeah, you've got New Canaan, which is a defending state champion, won Class M last year, at number 5. And, they're an FCX champion 2 years ago. So, and you've got, of course, Darien Wilton, the finalist. Darien's at number 3. So, you've got a lot of good teams in there. Norwalk can beat just about anybody. And Staples is having maybe its best season ever. So, it's going to be a wild field hockey tournament.
And talk about Greenwich sitting in 7th.
Yeah, Greenwich is an interesting team. I saw them play New Canaan, and that ended up being I believe a 5-4 game in overtime, or a 4-3 game in overtime, and New Canaan won that. But Greenwich plays kind of a wide open attacking.
Right, you were mentioning how talk about how it's referenced to basketball. You're saying how they almost play like they press you the whole game.
That's what it seemed like in some of their games this year. When they played Norwalk, they actually beat Norwalk 5-4. So there were 9 goals in that game, and in field hockey, where you're used to seeing scores like 3-2, 2-1, things like that. To have 9 goals or 8 goals or in a game is just it just doesn't happen. So Greenwich is an interesting one. I feel like they could, with that type of style, they could just about knock anybody for a loop in a game, or they could also get blown out, depending on which way that goes. Now, right now they're at the 6th seed, and they, given the matchups they have, they're playing West Hill. With a win, they would leap ahead of Ludlow, get to the 6th seed, and play Darien. If they tie, Ludlow wins the tiebreaker against Greenwich, so they would be number 7, and they would play Staples. So it's going to be an interesting matchup either way for Greenwich.
Right, and talk about Trumbull and Ward. They're playing tonight. Of course, they play Darien and Norwalk. Talk about how important a win for those two teams is.
Well, they needed to get, either one of them needs it to get in. Playing Norwalk or Darien is not going to be easy one for either one of those teams. So we could see it staying the same. But if Trumbull is able to win that game, they put Ward away right away. If Ward is able to win that and Trumbull loses, Ward will leap ahead of them. And it would be a huge, huge win for either one of those programs, just in general, but also going into the playoffs to have some momentum. You knock off one of those teams, and then you're going to play another one in the first round. You're going to have a lot of confidence going in. So, more power to those teams if they can pull off the upset tonight. Most likely they'd be in.
And rounding out this these 9 teams, is there a team in here besides maybe Wilton or Staples that can maybe surprise one of these top 2 teams?
Well, I would say, like we were talking about, Greenwich was just the style they play and the amount of goals they can score. I believe Maggie O'Gorman's probably their leading scorer this year. She's been great. And, that team is one that could do just about anything, kind of have like a puncher's chance, in a game this year. To be honest, any of the top 5 beating any of the other top 5, I don't see that as an upset or a surprise. You could see some teams. Wilton's played really well against teams. They just beat New Canaan 4-0, and that's a New Canaan team that was playing very well. But any of those top 5, I could see beating any of the others. And I guess in the bottom 3, Greenwich is the team to watch.
And you mentioned New Canaan. Is that a team that we may have to watch out for because they have the postseason experience? Yeah,
they obviously Class M champs last year, and I think they're going to do very well in that tournament again. So it'll be interesting. I mean, they have struggled at times. They had a 3-game losing streak when they played Staples, Darien, and Norwalk all in a row, which is a tough stretch for anybody. But kind of righted the ship a little bit and then got crushed by Wilton last week. They beat a good New Milford team last night, 1-0 in their season finale. But that's a team that could if they knock off Norwalk, take on Wilton again, maybe want to get some revenge for last week.
Maybe.
We'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes here on the HA Network. We'll keep you posted as the weeks go by, especially with the playoff matchups in field hockey. Dave and I are going to take a break. When we come back, we'll discuss girls volleyball here on Nutmeg Sports. Don't go anywhere on the HA Network.
This is now 44 years I've been in this business. Digital came along. After I was in business for about 6 years, I had to totally reinvent the business. So I had to make a tremendous investment in my business. And Milford Bank was there for me. I don't really just consider Milford Bank a bank. I consider them a trusted partner in my business. My name is Jim Wilson, owner of Milford Photo. I choose to bank with Milford Bank.
At InSports Trumbull, the game is always on inside. Recently renovated and home to one of Connecticut's largest indoor turf fields, InSports is a multi-sport recreation center providing state-of-the-art facilities for league play, camps, and youth programs. Sign up now for InSports Passing and Receiving Positional November Soccer Clinic, scheduled for November 19th. Sessions are available for U13 to U14, U15 to U16, and U17 to U19. Featuring college coaches from around the region, this is your official home of Connecticut's Olympic Development Soccer Program. For more information, visit insportcenters.com.
Walter Stewart's Market in New Canaan is your time-saving local shopping destination for the best of spring. Find many of your favorite products, from great specials on everyday items to the freshest organic produce, artisanal cheeses, and grass-fed steaks. Chop off your knives to be sharpened. Grab a beautiful bouquet of spring flowers and stop in next door for a wine tasting. Plus, their personable staff is always ready to lend a helping hand. So stop in to Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street today, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
Hi, this is Leo Carl from Carl Chevrolet in New Canaan, and you've heard me talk about the Chevy Volt for years. The new model gets 53 miles on EV charge daily, plus 420-mile full range. But don't take my word for it. You need to come in and test drive the Volt yourself. Visit us at 261 Elm Street in New Canaan or online at carldirect.com.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter, and I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune in to Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
If you're watching this broadcast, you're not alone. The HAN network is available for 200,000 Connecticut cable customers on the Frontier Network. And we've also reached 1.7 million viewers on our free live streaming sports, news, and entertainment broadcasts. To reach our rapidly growing audience, contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports here on the HA Network. Kevin Coleman, Dave Stewart. We're going to switch things over to girls volleyball now. And Dave, again, wrapping up the season for girls volleyball, it's an exciting time for the girls volleyball time.
Yeah, you got 6 teams in,
Right.
two spots still open with 4 teams fighting for that. And, it's you got some great stories with Greenwich and McMahon at the top with with one loss each, and they're going to be playing each other on Friday night. I believe we're doing that game, right?
That's right. That's right. We're going to be doing that game here on the HAN Network. Very excited about that.
That should be for a number 1 seed. Given that they both win tonight. You've got some really good teams there that could sneak up and beat any of those teams. Stanford's been very good. Mike Smeriglio's got a great team going over there as usual. Ridgefield is playing great this year. I believe they're the only team that beat McMahon this year. So that's going to Stanford beat Greenwich. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be great. There's some really good teams out there.
We've had some great volleyball games here on the HAN Network. One I was a part of was the Ridgefield, one of the Ridgefield games, and I was very impressed by the Tigers. They were very good.
Tigers are an excellent team. Any of those those top 4 right there with 2 losses or fewer are really good. And you can't count out teams like Trumbull or St. Joe's. They do have 4 losses each. They're going to be back in that. They're going to be on the road for the first game, the quarterfinals, but they're very good teams, and they could beat anybody.
Is the big story about Darien and their record this year?
I got to think so. Darien has been so good for so long. For them to be sitting at 6-8 in the FCIAC and 7-9 overall is just incredible. They haven't even qualified for the states yet, which is just mind-boggling. They've struggled. In their defense, a lot of their losses have been 3-2 losses to very good teams. So they, that some of those games that they lost to, say, Stanford or Ridgefield, teams like that, it's one set difference. So they could have a few more wins than they do. They haven't been able to put those games away. But you're just not used to seeing Darien either out of the tournament or, if they do sneak in as an 8 seed, playing the number 1. So.
And if they do sneak in as an 8 seed, do you see them being a type of team that can really, go on a run maybe, since they have the playoff experience?
I was going to say, the playoff experience goes a long way, and I don't think there's anybody who's going to say, we got the number 1 seed, now we got to play Darien. Ooh, great, That's not a team you want to see coming. I'm sure if they do make the states, which their last 2, they're going to play Trinity tonight. That's a game they should win, and they also have Central there. That's a game they will win. So they will qualify. It's just they've got the 7 wins right now. They got to get to 8. Any team that they're going to play on the road in the States, nobody's going to want to see them coming to I'm sure everybody's looking to see where they figure in and where Darien's going to be, because that's a team that could step up and beat some of those teams in the States. I don't know that they can knock off a Greenwich or a McMahon, whoever ends up being a number 1, if they do sneak in, but. I'm sure nobody wants to see the blue wave across the court from them.
Especially, even though they're sitting at 6-8, it's still scary to face them.
Yeah.
Talk about how top-heavy the West is. Greenwich, Stanford, Ridgefield, and Trumbull. It's amazing how these teams are playing so well.
Yeah, they're all good teams. They're all teams that can beat anybody at any given time. And you look at Danbury and Staples right behind them. Those are 2 teams that, with one more win or a loss by Ward or Darien, they're in. So you could look at 6 of the 8 seeds coming from that West division, and that's just a strong division.
And then in the East, McMahon, they're having a great year. St. Joe's, they've clinched. Talk about those 2 teams and how great of a season they've had.
Yeah, McMahon is probably right after Darien. McMahon is probably the story in the FCIAC because they're a team that really they've been getting better and better, but this year they've really taken it to another level, and they could end up as a number 1 seed if they can beat Greenwich on Friday. And what a great playoff primer for Greenwich and have Greenwich in the final day of the season.
Could you see maybe Trumbull or St. Joe's, who both sit at 10-4, ironically, could you see them making a run, maybe surprising some of the top seeds?
I could. In volleyball, it's all about momentum, and if one team starts running off points or gets a set here or there, there's really not a lot of time to gather yourself. In soccer or field hockey, you can kind of slow down the pace and try to get settle things down, to slow another team down. Volleyball, you don't have that option. It's just go all the time, and other than calling timeouts, which you only get so many of those, it's hard to stop another team once they get momentum going. And those are 2 good teams that have won a lot of games, so I could see them doing some damage.
Do you have a pick? Who's taking the volleyball crown?
As much as I like McMahon and Greenwich, I'm gonna go. I'm good friends with Mike Smeriglio. I'm gonna go with Stanford. Stanford has looked really good, and I'd like to see them. They've got a pretty deep team, some good players. more power to Mike. You know?
You heard it here first. Dave Stewart picking Stanford to win.
Can't go with the truck and everything, you know.
Hey, I understand. I understand. I mean, you've been great in your picks.
So far, so good. You know, that's a good sign. I didn't jinx anybody.
Well, Dave, thank you very much for coming on Nutmeg Sports today, and thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Kevin Coleman. We'll see you soon. And don't forget, tomorrow at 3:30, we will have boys quarterfinal FCX soccer. It'll be Ludlow and Danbury taking on each other at 3:30 here on the HAN Network. We'll see you soon.